Welcome to the Insatiable Lust for Life with Stephen North.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Insatiable Lust for Life. It's truly wonderful to be with you again, as many of you know. This podcast for me has always been about embracing life, finding our passion, and navigating whatever challenges come our way. It's about cultivating that deep, inherent desire to live fully, to explore, and to grow. It's been quite a few years since I first started this podcast, and I'm incredibly excited to share that I have 3 new episodes already in the pipeline, in the process of being polished and published. You'll be hearing from some fascinating guests and delving into some compelling topics very soon. But before we dive into those, I felt it was absolutely crucial to share my own journey from these past few years. Life, as it always does, has thrown some profound curveballs, and it's given me a whole new, often challenging but ultimately richer perspective on what an insatiable lust for life truly means. For a podcast dedicated to embracing life, it might seem ironic that the host, myself, would step back into the spotlight after a period defined by immense physical and mental struggles. But that, dear friends, is precisely the point. My personal journey to this transformative period began subtly, deceptively so, with something as common as a sore throat. But then, things escalated with terrifying speed and a very confusing path. Within a few days, that sore throat morphed into an excruciating ear pain, starting in my left ear and slowly making its way to the right. I got antibiotics, but they seemed to do nothing. A few more days had passed, and the pain became unbearable, forcing me to go to the hospital around 1 o'clock in the morning, just desperate for some relief. A few days after that, the first signs of facial paralysis began. I saw a young female who, bless her, love her dearly, thought it might be Ramsay-Hunt syndrome and advised me to go to the hospital if it worsened. She took swabs, and a few days later, I ended up in emergency hospital. To my dismay, I was discharged, told I was on the right medication, and assured that full facial paralysis was extremely rare. I also had to get a translator because I couldn't understand nor hear the doctor. She spoke too fast. My hearing had been impacted. Once I'd been discharged, my GP called me telling me those initial ear infections were immune to the antibiotics, and I needed to switch to a different one that did work. Thank goodness. However, that same weekend, the situation became critical. I woke up to a chilling reality. I was unable to speak. I had full facial paralysis. It was a shocking, disorientating experience, but in my true form, I created the special Steve character based on the facial paralysis. I waited until Monday morning to see my GP, getting a lift with a friend of mine as he was doing his rounds. My GP took one look at me and immediately said, "You're going straight to hospital." The major concern, the terrifying fear, was that the paralysis that would spread further into my throat, leading to a complete inability to breathe. After urgent medical consultations and tests at the hospital, I received the diagnosis that I've never heard of before: Guillain-Barré Syndrome. In fact, they weren't really sure that was it. They were trying to figure out if it was bilateral Bell's palsy or Guillain-Barré syndrome, and it was the responses test where they hit the hammer and hit your knees and everything, that they just weren't sure. But for those that are unfamiliar, Guillain-Barré syndrome is a rare and serious autoimmune disorder where your body's own immune system mistakenly attacks your nerves. In my case, it severely impacted the facial nerves, leading to that profound, terrifying paralysis. Thankfully, the initial period was not intense. Thankfully, the initial period was not the intense, arduous battle that some Guillain-Barré syndrome cases can be. I received the 5-day IGIV treatment, and it was remarkably effective in reversing most of the paralysis. The main critical concerns being able to close my eyes, hold my breath, and most importantly, being able to eat and swallow. These were thankfully overcome relatively quickly, thank God. I still live with some subtle residual paralysis, but it's not immediately obvious to others. It's just in. However, As the acute phase of GBS receded, new and chronic layers of challenges began to emerge. I think it was earlier this year, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia after months of pushing and pushing. This brought with it a pervasive, relentless companion, widespread chronic pain, often described as a constant aching, burning, or throbbing. It also brought severe sleep disturbances, cognitive fog, often called fibro fog, and a profound bone deep fatigue that no amount of rest seems to alleviate. Fibromyalgia is a neurological condition that amplifies pain signals to the brain, and it impacts every aspect of life, from the simplest daily task to your capacity for work and joy. It's an invisible illness, often misunderstood, that can be incredibly debilitating. For myself, I find the pain is in the brain. It's like having a migraine, and the strongest painkillers don't actually work at all. And then, amidst these overwhelming physical battles, I came to a profound realization about another significant piece of my own puzzle: my ADHD. This wasn't a recent diagnosis. I was diagnosed as a child, been diagnosed multiple times. For years, I had learned to work with it, to leverage its strengths, to use the pros while struggling with the cons. I found ways to make it work for me. I thrived under pressure. I could handle multiple tasks at once, and multitasking was, in fact, my superpower. I was able to run a fleet of over 600 vehicles whilst managing over $2 million worth of invoices a month. For me, that was my normal. But the comparison between that past capability and my now is a huge, stark contrast. The ongoing fatigue from fibromyalgia, the neurological impact from GBS, and the sheer exhaustion have fundamentally altered how my ADHD brain functions. My previously advantageous ability to juggle tasks and thrive under pressure feels utterly broken. I'm now struggling to focus on just one task. The constant hum of internal noise has become a roar, and sustained attention, once a challenge I could conquer, now feels impossible. This has been incredibly disorientating. Imagine your primary way of being productive, your unique strength subtly dissolving. It's like losing a limb you didn't know you relied on so heavily. There's also a grief that comes with it because you're no longer who you used to be. You're no longer who you think you are. Your entire identity has just been shattered. For something that you pride yourself in who you are and what you do and what you can perform in, it's all gone. Thankfully, in this modern world, the advancements in artificial intelligence have become a lifeline. I'm able to outsource a lot of what I can no longer reliably do because of this altered brain functioning. For example, trying to write a coherent email when you can't hold focus is a nightmare. Now, I can babble on, throw out fragmented thoughts, and if AI can understand what I'm trying to do, it can structure it, organize it, and present it clearly. It's a game changer, but it doesn't change the underlying feeling that a core part of my cognitive self is broken. I'm constantly relearning how to operate within this new neurological landscape. In fact, the majority of this script has been written by AI, and I've had to prompt it and massage it in order to write the script. So that way it's structured. I'm using the AI to give me the structure. Otherwise, I'll just be overwhelmed and too exhausted to focus on it. For many of you who follow my work beyond this podcast, perhaps through my writings or workshops, you know the profound importance of my spiritual practice and specifically my connection with Amy. She has been a guiding light, a profound source of wisdom, insight, and healing. She's been a huge part of how I channel and share messages that I believe can truly help others. It's helped me. She's amazing. When my body and mind began to falter so significantly, when the extreme exhaustion became so pervasive, and the cognitive fog from fibromyalgia and the altered ADHD brain blurred my thoughts, I faced an entirely new, deeply personal, spiritual challenge: relearning how to connect with Amy and channel her. It's interesting because in sessions with Amy and asking about this health crisis is in my life, my soul plan. My soul planned it. All it says is health crisis. Doesn't go into detail as to what it is. But funny enough, it's planned. So, interesting. So it has been a great obstacle. There were moments of genuine doubt, moments when I wondered if this profound connection, which had felt so intrinsic to my very being, was now somehow compromised by my physical and neurological state. Could my physical limitations block or distort the flow? It requires immense patience, a deeper surrender than ever before, and a willingness to accept that the channeling might manifest differently, that the experience itself might shift. It became about feeling my way back, finding new, perhaps quieter pathways to that sacred space. It was about proving to myself and to my spirit that even when the physical vessel feels fractured and overwhelmed, the spirit remains whole, connected, and capable. This journey with Amy has truly been a testament to the resilience of the spiritual bond, even amidst the most profound physical and mental turmoil. It redefined the very nature of our connection. And yes, Amy has explained that she's able to come through even with the fatigue. It doesn't matter how the brain works, as long as I'm able to elevate my consciousness or my frequency or whatever they describe it as, um, they're able to come through. I'm just having to relearn. But one of the gifts that this fibro fog has given me has been a new world of stillness. I still, the ADHD still sparks up a bit where you need to be distracted, but this lesson is how to not be distracted. Um, it wasn't just my internal world that shifted so dramatically. My external world, particularly my relationships, also underwent significant change. There have been profound adjustments in friendships over the years. When you go through such a deep and pervasive health crisis, your social circles naturally recalibrate. Some relations deepen, forged in the fires of understanding, empathy, and unconditional support. You discover who truly shows up, not just for the fun times, but for the hard, quiet, exhausting days. Others, through no fault of anyone, simply can't sustain that new reality. My energy levels are unpredictable. My ability to engage in social activities is drastically different, and I'm often simply not the energetic, always on the go person I once was in those social settings. It's a quiet grief, a subtle letting go of certain dynamics and connections that no longer fit. But, paradoxically, it also creates space for new depths in existing bonds and for new, more aligned connections to emerge. Relationships built on a deeper understanding of vulnerability and shared humanity. It is challenging, but ultimately refining process. There has been so much that has happened. It has been a period of immense transformation, forcing me to confront deeply held beliefs about strength, weakness, identity, productivity, and even what constitutes a good or successful life. The past few years have been a continuous cycle of trying different medications, exploring various therapies, desperately seeking something that would offer consistent relief. Something that would give me back a sense of the life I once knew. Some treatments offered a glimmer of hope, only to fade. Others brought unpleasant side effects with little benefit. It has been a relentless process of trial and error, of managing expectations, and often of quiet disappointment as the search for a cure gives way to the reality of chronic management. And through it all, one pervasive, undeniable reality has settled in. Exhaustion is a normal part of my reality. This isn't just feeling tired after a busy day or needing a nap. This is a deep, bone weary, cellular fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to touch. A profound depletion that permeates every cell of your being. It impacts everything: my physical energy, my cognitive focus, my emotional reserves, my very ability to engage with the world in the way I once did. It's a profound shift in how you view your capabilities and your energy levels, and it's been one of the most difficult adjustments. This pervasive exhaustion, coupled with the pain, the cognitive challenges, and the radical shifts in my life, has led to perhaps one of the most profound lessons I've learned through this entire experience. No matter how frustrated one can get, absolutely nothing positive comes from it. I've felt that frustration, that raw anger, that sense of deep injustice. I've railed against my body, against the unfairness of this hand I've been dealt. But I've learned, in the deepest, most visceral sense, that while these feelings are valid and necessary to acknowledge in the moment, clinging them doesn't change the physical reality. It doesn't lessen the pain, it doesn't bring back the energy, and it certainly doesn't help you move forward. In fact, it often makes things worse, amplifying the suffering, trapping you in a self defeating cycle of negativity. The real power, I've found, lies in the conscious choice to let go of that frustration, to allow it to pass through you like a cloud, to acknowledge its presence without giving it resonance. It really is about finding acceptance, not as resignation, not as giving up, but as a proactive, empowering choice to meet your current reality with compassion and practicality. This is where self love is very important because you've got, as it's saying here, you've got to meet it with compassion. You've got to have compassion and empathy for yourself because this is a new reality for you. This, or for me, this is a new experience. It's a new way of living. It's a new way of existence, and we can get angry with it. We can get frustrated with it, but it's not going to change anything. I stopped drinking coffee and I moved to like a fat burner from the gym junkies, and that worked. I ended up having nootropics, and it worked for a while. Then I started double scooping, and that worked for a while, and that gave like freedom. And yeah, it didn't really work, but it worked at that time. So then it stopped working. So then I moved back onto coffee, and that started to work because I hadn't had coffee for a while, and now it's not working. So the more and more you have to consume, which means the body is adjusting, and once you become sensitized or desensitized to the caffeine levels, and it becomes like a normal part of you, the whole fatigue and everything returns stronger. You can't escape it. So this has been about conserving that precious limited energy for what truly matters, finding moments of peace, connecting with what brings joy, and cultivating a quiet, unwavering resilience in the face of what cannot be changed. It's a daily, sometimes hourly practice of redirection and surrender. So, how do I, Stephen North, the host of The Insatiable Lust for Life, find that lost when life itself has presented such immense physical, mental, and spiritual limitations? It's a question I've grappled with daily, hourly, moment by moment, and the answer that I found lies in redefining what that lust truly means. It's no longer about chasing grand adventures or maintaining boundless energy in the same way I once did. It's about finding moments of joy, peace, and connection within the new parameters of my life. It's about recognizing the profound beauty in the small, everyday things that often went unnoticed before. There is something that I'm finding very interesting about this everyday things that often went unnoticed. When we look at Pompeii, the only people that had running water or a hot shower or a hot bath were the very wealthy ones. What I've noticed is that if you had a toilet, it was generally outside or a bucket or something. And the more and more that I look at what life could have been in the ancient periods to what we have now on demand, it is quite remarkable that we could be seen as all of us could be seen as really rich because we have hot shower, we have running water, we have fresh water, and it's these little things that we don't look at in comparison that we take for granted today. And I feel, I start feeling very lucky that I'm alive today, not then. But to help me remember this, I often look at a very unique crystal that is called fire and ice. This is a remarkable crystal because it looks as though it's completely shattered on the inside, as if it could fall apart at any moment. And yet, despite how intensely fractured it appears internally, it is always whole and complete from the outside. Every time I feel broken, every time the limitations of my body and mind make me question my wholeness, I look at that crystal. It's a powerful, tangible reminder that no matter how shattered I might feel on the inside, I am, at my core, still whole and complete. It's about acceptance, not as a weakness, but as a profound strength. Acceptance of my body's current reality, acceptance of my brain's unique wiring, acceptance of the journey I'm on. It's about cultivating radical self compassion and understanding that some days, just existing, just getting through the day, is a monumental triumph in itself. And it's about choosing consciously to find a different path forward, even if it's just a small, quiet step. The insatiable lust for life now means an insatiable desire to understand, to adapt, to nurture myself, and to find meaning and beauty in the quiet, often unexpected corners of this profoundly redefined existence. It's a softer, more internal, but no less powerful flame. This journey has reshaped me profoundly. It has broken me down and built me back up in ways I never imagined possible. And as I bring you these new episodes of The Insatiable Lust for Life, I do so with a deeper, more empathetic understanding of resilience, vulnerability, and what it truly means to have an insatiable desire to live, even when that life looks vastly different than you ever imagined. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to share this deeply personal chapter of my life with you. Your understanding and your continued support mean more than words can express. I'm truly excited for you to hear these new episodes coming your way, but I felt it was essential to open up about my own experiences first, to share this very personal evolution of my own insatiable lust for life. Until next time, keep that insatiable lust for life burning in whatever way makes sense for you, and remember the quiet strength found in acceptance. This is Stephen North signing off. Thank you very much.
Welcome to the Insatiable Lust for Life with Stephen North.